Hello, YouTube. It's been a while since I've last posted a video. Today we're gonna be reading this book, The Island by Max Brooks. This will at least start a new chapter in my YouTube career. Pun intended.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, my dad jokes are horrible. I'm gonna be taking this one chapter at a time. I'll be uploading weekly episodes. So, yeah, every Saturday I'll be uploading weekly things. Alright, guys, let's start with Chapter 1 of The Mountain by Max Brooks. Never give up. Drowning. I woke up underwater, deep underwater, and this was my first conscious thought. Cold, dark, where was the surface? I kicked in all directions, trying to find my way up. I twisted and turned, and then I saw it. A light, dim, pale, far away. Instinctively I shot for it, and quickly noticed that the water around me was growing brighter. And then, that had to be the surface, the sun. But how could the sun be square? I must be seeing things. Maybe a trick of the water. Who cares? How much air do I have left? Just get to it. Swim. My lungs ballooned, little bubbles escaping from my lips. My racing me for the distant light. I kicked and crawled the water. I kicked and crawled in the water like a caged animal. Now I could see it. A ceiling of ripples coming closer with each desperate stroke, closer, but still so far away. My body ached, my lungs burned. Swim! Swim! Crack! My body writhed as a sudden jolt of pain shot from toes to eyes. My mouth opened in a choked scream. I reached for the glow, grabbing for breath, for life. I exploded into the cool, clean air. I coughed. I choked. I wheezed. I laughed, breathing. For a moment, I just savored the experience, closing my eyes and letting the sun warm my face. But when I opened my eyes, I couldn't believe them. The sun was square. I blinked hard. The clouds, too. Instead of round, puffy cotton balls, these thin, rectangular objects floated lazily above me. You're still seeing things, I thought. You hit your head when you fell off that boat, and now you're a little dazed. But did I fall off a boat? I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember anything, in fact. How I got there, or even where here was. Help me, I shouted, scanning the horizon for a ship or a plane, even a speck of land. Please, somebody, anybody, help. All I got was silence. All I could see was water and sky. I was alone. Almost. Something splashed inches from my face. A flash of tentacles like a thick, black and grayish head. I yelped, kicking backward. It looked like a squid, but square. Like everything else in this strange place. The tentacles turned to me, opening wide. I gazed right into the yawning red mouth, ringed with white razor teeth. Get out of here, I hollered, mouth dry, heart pounding. I splashed clumsily away from the creature. I didn't have to. At that moment, the tentacles closed, blasting the squid in the other direction. I floated there, frozen, treading water for a few seconds until the animal disappeared into the deep. That's when I let out a long, throaty, tension-draining ugh. I took another deep breath and then another, then a whole lot more. Finally, my heart settled down, my limbs stopped jerking, and for the first time since I woke up, my brain switched on. Okay, I said aloud. You're way out in a lake or an ocean or whatever. No one's coming to save you, and you can't tread water forever. I did a slow 360-degree turn, hoping to see some thread of coastline I'd missed before. Nothing. In desperation, I tried one last scan of the sky. No planes, not even a thin white trail. What sky doesn't have those trails? With a square sun and rectangular clouds. The clouds, I noticed, they were all moving steadily in one direction, away from the rising sun, due west. As good as anywhere, I said, giving another deep sigh, and started swimming slowly west. It wasn't much to go on, but I figured the wind might help me along a little bit, or at least wouldn't slow me down. And if I went north or south, the breeze might slowly blow me in an arc, so I'd end up swimming in circles. I didn't know if that was really true. I still don't. I mean, come on. I'd just woken up, probably with some kind of massive head injury at the bottom of an ocean, and was trying really, really hard not to end up back there. Just keep going, I told myself. Focus on what's ahead. I began to notice how weird my swimming was. Not the stroke motion, but it was the sense of gliding across the water with my limbs along for the ride. Head injury? I thought, trying not to imagine how serious that injury might be. One good thing I noticed was that I didn't seem to be getting tired. Isn't swimming supposed to be exhausting? Don't your muscles burn and quit after a while? Adrenaline, I thought, and tried not to imagine that emergency gas tank running out, but it would. Sooner or later, I'd lose steam, cramp up, go from swimming to treading water, and then from treading water to floating. Of course I'd try to rest, bobbing up and down, to conserve energy. But how long could I keep that up? How long before the cold of the water finally got to me? How long before, teeth clattering, body shivering, I finally sank back down into the darkness? Not yet, I blurted out. I'm not giving up yet. Shouting out loud was enough to perk me up. Keep focused, keep going, and I did. I kept swimming with all my might. I also tried to be uber aware of my surroundings. Hopefully I would spot the mast of a ship or the shadow of a helicopter. But at the very least, it would take my mind off the current predicament. I noticed that the water was calm, and this gave me something to feel good about. No waves meant no resistance. which meant I could swim further, right? And I also noticed that the water was fresh, not salty, which meant that I had to be in a lake instead of the ocean. And lakes are smaller than oceans. Okay, a big lake is just as dangerous as an ocean, but come on, you got a problem with me trying to look on the bright side? I also noticed that I could see the bottom. It was deep. Don't get me wrong, you could sink a pretty decent office building and never see the top. But it wasn't bottomless. The ocean, it's like the ocean is supposed to be. I could also see that it wasn't level. There were tons of little valleys and hills. That was them. Off to my right, I noticed one of the hills had grown so tall that its top disappeared beyond the horizon. Did it break the surface? I turned northwest, I guess, and swam in a straight line for the hill. And before I knew it, the hill grew into an underwater mountain. And a few seconds later, I actually thought I saw its top sprout above the water. That's gotta be land, I thought. Trying not to get my hopes up. It could be a mirage thought. Or it could be a mirage though. A trick of the light or some mist, or that's when I saw the tree. At least I thought it was a tree, because from a distance I could make out its dark green angular mass perched atop a brown line. Excellent. Excitement propelled me like a torpedo. Eyes locked forward. I soon saw other trees dotting the tan beach, and then, suddenly, the green-brown slope of a hill. Land! I shouted. Land! I'd made it. Warm, firm, solid ground. A few strokes and I'd be there. A wave of total relief washed over me, and just like a real wave, it washed right back out. I barely had a second to celebrate before the island came into full view. By the time I had reached its shore, I was just confused as the moment I'd waken up. The island was square. Or rather, it was made up of squares. Everything. Sand, dirt, rocks. Even those things I'd first thought were trees. Everything was a combination of cubes. Okay, I said, refusing to believe what I was seeing. Just need a minute, is all. Just a minute. Standing in waist-high water, breathing, blinking. I waited for my eyes to clear. I was sure that any minute all those harsh right angles would return to soft, curvy normalness. They didn't. Gotta be a head wound, I said, wading ashore. No problem, just make sure you're not bleeding too bad. And instinctively my hand went up to find this post-injury, and as it came up in front of my face, I gasped. What? There was a fleshy cube at the end of my rectangular arm. A cube that wouldn't open no matter how hard I tried. Where's my hand? I shouted, my voice raising in panic. Head swimming, throat closing. I looked nervously down at the rest of me. Brick-shaped feet, rectangular legs, a shoebox-shaped torso, all covered in painted-on clothes. What's wrong with me? I hollered into the empty beach. This isn't real, I screamed, running back and forth, trying to tear the painted clothes off my body, hyperventilating. I rushed back to the water, desperate for the calming reflection of my face. Nothing greeted me. "Where am I?" I shouted to the shimmering sea. "What is this place?" I thought of the water, of how I'd woken up. But had I? "This is a dream," I said, relief breaking into my panicked voice, reaching out for the only thing I could think of. Of course. And for a second I almost pulled myself together. "Just a crazy dream, and you'll soon wake up." And what? I tried to imagine waking up in my home, in my life, but it was all gone. I could remember the world in the real world of soft, round shapes, of people and houses and cars and lives. I just couldn't remember me in it. My vision narrowed as an invisible fist closed around my lungs. Who am I? Tension pulsed up through the veins in my neck. I could feel the skin of my face, the roots of my teeth, dizzy, nauseous. I staggered back against the base of the hill. What's my name? What was my name? What did I look like? Was I old? Was I young? Sorry. Looking down at my boxy body, I couldn't determine anything. Was I a man or a woman? Was I even human? What am I? The thread snapped. My mind collapsed. Who, where, who, what, and now the final question. Why? I screeched at the bright, square sun. Why can't I remember? Why am I different? Why am I here? Why is all of this happening to me? Why? All I got back was silence. No birds, no waves, not even the rustle of wind through those angular excuses for trees. Nothing but pure, punishing silence, and then GURP. The sound was so small that I wasn't sure I'd heard it. GURP. I definitely heard it that time, and felt it too. It was coming from inside me. My tummy was rumbling. I'm hungry. That was all I needed to break my downward spiral. Something to do. Something simple and clear to focus on. And next to breathing, there's nothing clearer or simpler than eating. GURP, growled my stomach, as if to say, I'm waiting. I shook my head violently, trying to get the blood back in my cheeks, and looked down at my body to see if I had anything to eat. I had been so shocked the first time I'd seen myself that I might have missed something earlier. Maybe I had a waterproof phone in my pocket, or even a wallet with my ID. I didn't have either, or even pockets, but what I did find was a thin belt painted the same color as my pants. Another reason I missed it the first time, with 4 flat pouches on either side. Each pouch was empty, but while going through them, I suddenly realized I could feel the slight pressure of something resting gently on my back. I call it a backpack, but it didn't have any straps or hooks or anything that could have held it in place. It was just stuck there. And like the belt and my painted on clothes, I couldn't take it off. All I could do was reach back and swing it to the front. crazy dream, I said, coming back to the only mental crutch I had. The packs inside was lined with 27 small pouches, just like those on the belt, and also totally empty. So much for taking inventory, I thought, as the feeling of hunger grew constant. That meant foraging for food. I looked around for something, anything, that looked remotely edible. At first, the only thing I could find appeared to be 1 block high blades of rectangular grass. They grew in ones and twos on the green covered dirt behind the beach. I reached down to one sprouting at my feet, but somehow I couldn't pick it up. Instead, I just swiped clumsily in a rapid punching motion. Anxiety welled up in me. It was one thing to have a strange-looking body, but a whole new crisis to discover that body wouldn't obey. I tried again, missing the grass, and again. When I finally connected, my fist smashed my target into oblivion. And do I mean oblivion? The tall grass stalks didn't just fall over or break, they disappeared. One quick crunching noise and poof, gone. "Aw, come on," I pouted, looking at this angular appendage. "Won't just work, will ya?" For some reason, pleading with my hand wasn't the answer. Neither was trying to repeat the same fruitless motion on another identical clump of grass. I've heard, although I can't remember where, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. I don't know if that's true for some people, but for me, it's pretty darn close. "Just work," I grunted angrily, punching the grass like it had swung first. "Work, work, work." It was starting again. The mental side. My mind was balancing on a thin tightrope that at that moment I really needed some kind of win. I didn't get one exactly, but I did break that cycle by accident, literally breaking the ground. On my fourth try, I hit it so hard and for so long that I didn't only destroy the little green blades, but I also knocked away a whole block of dirt beneath them. "Whoa," I stammered, frustration replaced with curiosity. At first I didn't see the block, just the block-sized hole it had disappeared into. I peered into the divot and saw a cube floating at the bottom, actually hovering off the ground, and much smaller than it had been. I reached in to pick it up and didn't get halfway there before it flew up at me. I stumbled back with a surprised "whoa" and looked down at the cube in my hand. It felt like dirt, coarse and dry with a few little pebbles in it. I tried squeezing my hand and felt it give without crumbling. I brought it up to my face and sniffed. It smelled just like dirt. I sniffed again and suddenly felt comforted. Everything was alien up until that point. Everything around me, including me, this wasn't. This one sensation was familiar. I could feel my neck muscles relaxing, my jaw unclenching. Hey, I'm not embarrassed to say that I took another 4 or 5 good long tranquilizing whiffs of that dirt block, and I'm also not embarrassed to say that in between each inhale, I glanced over my shoulder just to see that no one was looking. I wouldn't say that the experience made everything better, but it did give me the confidence to try opening my fingers and drop the block on the ground. And it did. And I felt even better. Well, alright, I exhaled. At least I have the power to drop things. Not a huge win, I know, but something. Some tiny bit of control. I watched the little dirt cube hover at my feet for a second, then reached out to pick it up again. I didn't flinch the second time it jumped to meet me. Okay, I said, taking a cautious breath. If I can drop you, maybe I can. I moved the cube down to one of the pouches on my belt and sighed deeply as it obediently dropped inside. So, I said, smiling down at the belt. Stuff, well, dirt, at least, shrinks small enough for you to carry it. Weird, but maybe useful in this dream. I couldn't say world yet. I was still way too fragile. Grrp, bubbled my stomach, reminding me that there was reminding me it was still there. Right, I said, and took the cube back out of my belt. And since I can't eat you, I can't think of any reason to carry you around. I held the shrunken box out to the hole where I dug it up, at maybe a piece or two away. I jumped right out of my hand and swelled back into its original shape and snapped into place as if nothing had happened. Well, almost nothing. Digging it out had taken off its screen cover. I hummed, tried digging it up again. Sure enough, a few punches drove it right into my hand. When I put it down this time, I tried setting it next to a hole instead of inside it. Again, sprang back to its normal size, sitting securely on the ground. I hummed again, my newfound calm allowing the wheels to turn. Something about setting that block down in a new place reminded me of a buried memory. I don't think it was a memory specific to me, but rather to the non-dream world. Something about little kids playing with blocks, making things, building. If everything here is made of blocks, I said to the newly replanted cube, and all these blocks keep their shape, could I stack them into things I want to build? Grrp, came a particularly angry protest from down south. Right, I told my stomach, and turning to the block said, maybe later, I gotta eat. I figured I'd give the grass one more try before moving on. I'm glad I did. On the 5th attempt, the vanishing clump left a collection of hovering seeds. Finally, I thought, and tried to pick them up. One weird mirror quirk of this dream was that I could only grab 6 seeds at the same time. Wasn't able to hold them individually. Another weird and ridiculously major quirk was that I was not able to consume them. My hand just froze there, inches from my mouth, and wouldn't let me eat. Really? I said and tried to move my face to my hand instead. That didn't work either, like an invisible force field was holding them apart. Really? I repeated sarcastically, feeling the frustration and anger rising up. Fine. My arm cocked to throw the seeds away. What stopped me was the block of dirt I'd just been experimenting with. When I had set it down a few minutes ago, the green cover top was missing. Now it was back. The turfy layer had regrown. That's fast, I thought, looking down at the seeds. Do all plants grow fast? Maybe I could try planting these seeds. And boy, did I try. I tried every way I could think of. I dropped the seeds back onto the ground, but they just hovered. I punched them into the soil, but unearthed another block, and after setting that block down in a new position above ground, I tried pushing the seeds into the side. Nothing worked. Why won't I? Hissed through clenched teeth and stopped myself. Going down the Y path would lead me right back to a full-blown meltdown. Keep going, I said with a huff. Don't give up. Dropping the seeds into a belt pouch, I desperately looked around for another option. Any other food source, any distraction. The trees. I ran over to the closest one, trying to peel away sections of the bark. Do people eat bark? Maybe, but I couldn't. My hands wouldn't let me grab the light and dark strips brown cover. They also wouldn't let me climb the waist-thick trunk up the tree. Square branches, small, many-cubed leaves. I didn't give up. I couldn't afford to. If this is a dream, I said, then I can just fly up to get some. Fist raised, eyes up, I leapt into the air and came down just as quick. But in that crucial moment, I suspended in midair, something truly magical happened. I tried punching at the leaves above me, and even though they were a block or two away, I felt my fist impact. I began hesitantly striking above me. Can I reach? Sure enough, though my actual arm didn't stretch from four blocks lengths away, I could still hit the dappled cubes above my head. I can reach, I shouted, and began bashing at the leaves. Creeping instantly faded with each empowering punch. Yeah, I belted. The first cube vanished. Dropped a red, shiny, semi-round fruit into my hands. That's what I'm talking about. And this time my body let me eat. Maybe this was the key, now I thought. Crunching on the first crispy sweetness and feeling the juice run down my throat. Maybe my hand will only let me eat what's edible. It might not have looked exactly like an apple, but it tasted just like one. And if I thought the scent of the earth was comforting, this new sensation was so overpowering I actually felt a sting at the corners of my eyes. Keep going, I said, as the entire apple disappeared into my welcoming stomach. Never give up. Without realizing it, I just learned something. Call it a mantra, a life lesson, or whatever, but they're words to live by, and they'd be the first of many on this strange and wonderful journey. Never give up. And that is the end of chapter 1. Thank you all for listening. And if you haven't yet, please click that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. So, all those who have subscribed already, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you next Saturday with Chapter 2 of The Mountain by Max Brooks.